I have declared war against my brain in order to save my mind. The battle wounds don't seem to bother me so long as I know they will heal with time. And the scars remind me to appreciate the days I don't have to serve.
I wanted to ask you, because when you did Death Wish, okay, you kind of smile at that or whatever. And first of all, was that before Aliens or after Aliens?
I don't remember. I think it was around the same time, though.
It was around the same time. I think it came out and like it. That's why I'm asking, because I couldn't tell from the IMDb whether it was before or after. Well, let me ask you a couple things about that, okay? Because number one, you get killed by Charles Bronson. That's pretty fucking awesome, right? And I've been in George C. Scott's arms, you know. I died in George C. Scott's arms, but getting killed by Charles Bronson that's a kind of a notch in your belt that must have felt pretty good.
It did feel good, and the interesting thing about it was that as a young actor, I looked up to him, and I just loved the way he acted because he always kind of downplayed things, and he always was this kind of silent danger, you know, about him. And I would go to his trailer and just talk to him. He was kind of mentor, and I was always looking for mentors at that time. And at the time, his wife had just passed away.
Who was that, Jim?
Jill Ireland.
Jill Ireland,
yeah,
right?
They made a lot of movies.
Which I heard a story that David McCallum was married to her, and that David McCallum basically was going away on location and asked Charles Bronson to look after his wife while he was gone on location. And
he looked after her,
and he certainly did.
But no, he was kind of
after her, looked before her, looked after
yeah, exactly.
yeah, looked all over her. Yeah,
but he was kind of like he was kind of in mourning, and at the same time we're doing this movie, and this movie was about fucking kids doing crazy ass shit, and I think he was using that. So we'd be in the trailer talking, and he'd be talking to me, and he's very very low key, and very warm to me. But I could tell that he was kind of in mourning. And then we get out on the set, and he had this look in his eye like he just wanted to fucking kill me, and all of us, So I think he was definitely using part of that the problem, his personal problems, and putting it into his character and working on that. Yeah.
You look like you had probably because they weren't paying you either, but or would they have been me if I had been in like a run of show? Kind of, you were there for probably. First of all, they shot in New York, and then they shot in London or England.
Yeah, right.
Tell me, do you know why they did they when they started the movie? Did they expect to shoot the whole thing in New York? Do you know what the story is?
I think it was planned just the way it was. They wanted the exteriors in New York. As a matter of fact, we went to one of the barrios.
Did you go to New York?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where he kills me, throws me over. Bill.
Oh, okay.
And we go to New York, and we're shooting in the hood because he wanted that authenticity. And I remember we had been shooting a couple of days, and then we're dressed like gang members. We're walking around. We're in character like gang members, and then some real gang members came up, and it was like
just kidding, guys.
Yeah. And we're actors, man. We're fucking actors.
What colors do I have?
in my SAG card, yeah.
And so I knew the situation. I knew these dudes, they were not happy that we're in that area, and I could tell. But some of the actors that were dressed as gang members were trying to stay in character, and it got a little tension. And then they told us to get the fuck out.
This is New York City?
This is in New York, yeah.
Right. What part of New York?
I can't remember the barrio.
Manhattan?
No, it was the hood. It was a bad area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, Bedford-Stuyvesant, maybe.
Yeah, some shit like that, right.
Yeah.
And they start telling us, you didn't ask permission for this. Right. You didn't ask us.
Yeah.
And then it got a little rough, and then people started getting on the bus because we didn't have a place to hang out. So we started getting on the bus, and they started picking up rocks and throwing at the fucking bus.
Oh, wow.
And we had to actually pull away, and they had to come back and clean and kind of clear it with these guys for us to finish the shoot the next day. But it got a little tense, man. I was like, this is where life becomes art, right here. And then after we finished in New York, we went back to London, and the reason we went back to London is because Charles the director built this building that looked just like the building we were in New York.
Michael Winner?
Michael Winner. And Michael Winner.
He built a building?
He had a building built
so he could blow it up,
so he can burn it up.
So he could burn it up, yeah. Okay.
An interesting thing happened. What happens is the building gets caught on fire. I'm on top of the building, and he's throwing me off the building. But then the whole building gets caught on fire, and there's a stunt man that's supposed to be me. He's running up the building, and he's supposed to jump. And he went up there, and he practiced it, and he looked over the building. They had the boxes down there, and he was going to jump. And then he said, "Okay, let's set it on fire." And Michael Winner says, "We only got one building, so when we set it on fire, we got to really set it on fire."
Yeah.
So the guy goes up, the stunt man goes up. They set the building on fire, and then Michael's telling him, no, we need more fire. We got to make this big. And they turned up the fire, more fire. The whole fucking building caught on fire. And then the stuntman gets up there and he goes to where he's supposed to jump, but the fire is so big he can't see the boxes. So he decides
to jump.
Yeah, to jump. Right.
Yeah.
So he decides, I'm coming back down. I'm bailing out.
Right.
And he tries to come back down, and you can't come back. He couldn't come back down. So then he goes back up, and now there's even more fire. He
more
just
smoke. Still can't see.
And there's no way he can get out of this situation but to jump. So his name was the guy's name was Rocky, the stuntman. And so Rocky jumps where he thinks the boxes are, and he misses part of the boxes. And
how many stories up was he? 3, 4?
I think it was like 3 or 4 stories. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he misses half of the boxes, and he breaks his back. Oh. It's the stuntman breaking his back, and so they had to take him to the hospital, and he was in the hospital fucked up. Later, I heard a story that Michael Winner went to the hospital and to see him, and the guy said, "I want X amount of money," and then Michael was. This is what I heard. This is secondhand information that Michael said, "Well, listen, I'll see you in court then." And that was the last I heard about that. But Michael Winner was a really cool director, and he reminded me a lot. I think he was one of the first directors that I worked with that they worked so fast for movies that you had to be on your P's and Q's, man, because he was moving fast, and he often didn't do a lot of takes, but he gave you room to play, and if you liked it, you'd keep it in. If he didn't like it, he'd take it out and cut and edit or whatever, but you had room to play, and I think that helped us as a cast really kind of galvanize, because we were all always bouncing off of each other and just having fun with the bros.
Well, that was the third Death Wish movie
that's right.
he made, and he had worked with Charles Bronson in some westerns as well. So those two guys,
they knew each other well, yeah.
They did,
and they worked together well too.
Well, watching the movie, one of the things that impressed me about the movie was the fucking fires. That building fucking that you're talking about.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm not sure if I think there might be another fire or something. Whoever was doing that's like more fire. That obviously is not CGI back then. It's not even close to
exactly.
It. And that was a building that went up and then came down. I mean,
dude, you could feel the heat.
Yeah.
You could feel it.
Yeah.
You didn't even have to be close to it. You could feel it. I mean, and that's why I think it worked so well on film, because it wasn't CGI. That was the real shit.
No, I know. I mean,
it's the real shit.
Yeah. Well, here's a couple things. Jim, didn't you tell me that the stuntmen on that show were not happy with Michael? Wasn't that part of our conversation that we had on the way over here?
Well, that's what the Wikipedia article.
What does it say?
About. It said that stuntmen said he could be a demanding and abusive director.
About whom? About
Winner.
Yeah.
About Winner.
Yeah, and that's what one of the stories that I heard too. And part of that was like he did go to the hospital when Rocky was in the hospital, but it ended badly because
on the Wikipedia article under controversies around the movie, the very first paragraph reads, several stuntmen allege the director Michael Winner was an abusive and dangerous director on film sets to his crew. Rocky Taylor alleges Winner created dangerous. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And Rocky's the one you're talking. Okay, so it sounds like I've got some disinformation from my past. It always Ricco seemed to me that whenever I heard the name Michael Winner, there was kind of controversy around his name. The way that I worked for Billy Friedkin, and Billy Friedkin was a fucking monster. He was a real fucking monster, and I also read that during the Me Too movement, some woman came out. Is there a rape in every one of those fucking? Because a woman, people get killed and a woman gets raped in every single one of them.
Yeah, the women.
Well, some woman came out. She was, I don't know if she was the one that was in the one that you did that got raped, or the one that was in the first one or second one, came out during the Me Too movement, and basically kind of indicated that Michael Winner said, well, you know, like, if you were going to rape her, what would you do to these four guys? Like, go, and like, we'll film it, you know.
This is what I was saying about him. He worked so fast. He didn't want to warm up to whatever the scene was. He wanted you to go in there and hit it right then, so he can get it and get out. And so I think there's some things you can do like that. When it comes to stunts, you know, it is going to be a little dangerous because you really have to work out the kinks before you do the big thing. But he shot so fast. He wanted to go straight to the big thing. Let's get it and go. And I could see why stuntmen didn't feel comfortable with it. I mean, even the driving stuntmen, you know, I could see why they didn't, because they didn't have time to work it out like you normally would.
Yes.
You just better be able to make it happen. And we only got one car, so don't fuck it up.
Right. You know? Right. All right. Well, I somewhere in my past, I thought that I'd always heard the name Michael Winner and in controversy, but it sounds like, as far as dealing with the actors and dealing with you, that he wasn't.
Quite the contrary.
Okay,
dealing with
that's
me,
good to know.
Dealing with the actors. He spoke with a smile on his face while he's talking to you. He had a slight smile on his face.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, just before he passed away, I did an hour podcast with him. Well, it was just a radio interview. He was in London. I was here.
Okay.
And I can't remember. It might have been Adrian Paul's show or somebody's show, and we had the best time. And his memory was as clear as a bell. He was talking specifically about things that we did back in that movie, and we had the best time because with the actors we had a great relationship. He had a great relationship, and he just wanted you to go for it. And we as actors, we don't mind going for it, because if we fuck up, we're not going to get our back broken or something like that. You know, so
right.
It was fine. We go play. And play hard. It was kind of like, so with us, the relationship was very different. But I could see, as a stunt man, or as the people who had to build the sets, he didn't have a lot of patience for them. He wanted you to be ahead of the game, so when he got there, it was ready to go.
Okay.
Yeah. I love the dude myself, man. I loved him.
Yeah.
I remember how impactful that first movie was, Death Wish. It really made I mean, it was like on the cover of Time magazine.
Right,
it had that big a social impact.
It wasn't
just a movie.
Yeah.
It was a phenomenon.
There was something that was similar. I think it was a movie called Falling Down or something like that. With
Michael Douglas?
Decades later.
Yeah.
And it was a similar kind of thing where you got this kind of quiet guy who becomes this crazy fighter against vigilantes. And he starts doing some horrible things, but at the end of it, the cops come and they get him, and he looks in the camera, and I'll never forget this line. He goes,
"This is from Falling Down."
This is from Falling Down.
This is Michael Douglas.
This is Michael
talking
Douglas.
To Robert Duvall.
That's right. And he goes to him. He goes, "I'm the bad guy.
I'm the bad guy here." Yeah.
And that was But Michael Winner created that type of character where you had the good guy that was so fed up with things that police couldn't do anything about, the government couldn't do it about it, so he took it into his own hand, and he dealt with the bad guy. And I remember that movie Falling Down years later, where the guy said that line, and I was like, yes, that is exactly what Michael Winner was bringing to the screen.
Who directed that Falling Down, Jim? You don't have to.
Joel Schumacher.
Oh, Joel Schumacher. I call him Schumacher. You call him Shoemaker.
No, Schumacher. Yeah.
Joel Schumacher. Yeah. Well, I met Joel for that movie, and there's there's a role in that movie of a guy who was sort of a compadre of his. He was a guy who worked in the store. A really. I
think Frederick Forrest
played that role. But I met Schumacher a few times. I think director. I was very pretty back then. I think he just liked having me around him.
That's very true.
I think he just wanted to, as Joel's passed away. But I met him. He also did that pretty wonderful show about AIDS that Gere starred in. Jim, you remember that sort of a television movie right when AIDS was,
And the band played on.
the band played on. I think he directed
Yeah,
that too.
yeah.
And I think I met him for that too. Anyway, what are you laughing at?
I'm laughing at you saying he just had you around because you were a pretty boy.
Well, that's why.
But you were a pretty mother. Can I cuss?
Yes,
you?
yes.
You were a pretty motherfucker back then. Though,
Well, I was a pretty motherfucker, and
you were like, but you
Gays
weren't
loved you,
effeminate with it. You were like this. You had this kind of like this quiet kind of masculinity, but you're good looking as fuck.
Well, I've always said that if it wasn't for the gay men and the gay mafia at that time, that like that's what propelled my career. When I did a movie called The Fan, and it was produced by Robert Stigwood. Okay. And Robert Stigwood. Got a funny story about Robert Stigwood. Throw him under the bus here. And this was right after he'd done Bee Gees. He had the Bee Gees, and he represented Eric Clapton. But that's when the Bee Gees were just like taking off.
Yeah.
And he did not Saturday. What was the movie he did with Travolta? Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday Night
Saturday Night
Fever.
Live.
Saturday Night Fever. Saturday Night Fever. Right. Yeah. So it was right along.
Stigwood couldn't have been higher. Couldn't have been higher at that point.
So
more influential in movies.
So he's producing the movie, and then he's got a guy. I mean, he's fun. Yeah, he's one of the producers. Then he's got a guy working for him, and he who really produced the movie, who was gay. He was named Kevin something. I've forgotten his name, and he was gay. The original director on the movie that hired me was an English director named Morris Hussein. And he was gay, and my agent at the time, Ed L'Amato, was gay, and my television agent happened to be gay. But like my whole career got going and moving forward because I had a lot of gay men that liked to have me around, and I tell people like, I never had to do anything, but once they found, this whole thing about gay men and not wanting to have this used to be the thing like 20 years ago, like people like, oh, I don't want my children around gay people because they'll rub off, and the gay people, once you tell a gay person that you're not interested in that, that's it, they're done. But if you're as pretty as I was when you were 20, they still like you hanging out. They still like you kind of around, just like we would like to have even though we're not a hot woman around us, even though we're not necessarily
trying to hit on her or anything. But
exactly.
it's nice. We like the company.
Yeah,
I remember I did this. I was in Whitney Houston's first.
Yeah, you weren't exactly an unattractive young man. You must have had a few. I thought talk about the down low here.
No, I thought I was good looking for a minute, and then I did this Whitney Houston video, "Saving All My Love for You."
Okay.
And she flew over from New York to to London to do it, and I was living in London, and we got along great. And then I started talking with.
You got along great with her?
Yeah. We got along great. Yeah, we
how great?
Like really good.
Really good.
But
good?
But she was living
Come on,
in
give
New
it up.
York.
Give it up.
No, she was living in New York. I was living
right.
in London.
Okay.
We exchanged numbers, and we said, if I'm ever there, I would
exchange numbers with Whitney Houston.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. But she was a young chick, man, and I was in a relationship, so it was just we try to keep it cordial.
Tried to, or you?
No, we kept it cordial. But when I got the job,
shit, I thought we might have something here.
No.
Okay.
No, when we got the job, the director told me, he goes, we had to recast it because the other guy was too good looking. And I was like, oh, shit. Oh, damn.
Thanks for coming in.
Damn.
Thanks for coming in.
So that's when it kind of that kind of brought me down to reality. I'm not that guy. I'm not Michael Biehn.
Well, you've always been an attractive guy. So I mean, I don't know, what everybody's got a different opinion of what like the beauty is and what beauty is and
guy,
handsomeness and so on and so forth. But you obviously.
But what you did, I thought similar to what Brad Pitt did. Was you could have just played these good looking roles and whatnot, but you didn't. You went and played roles that challenged you to do other things, to bring out other parts of your character.
But and you know what? Ricco, that was never any choice.
Right,
It was never any choice that I made. Or I'm not gonna,
But you were able to deliver. That was the deal. See, a lot of good looking guys, because a lot of models go into our business, and they don't have the chops to carry.
You did some modeling, right?
I did. I modeled as a model. I always called it moonlighting. But I was modeling in Europe, in Milan, Munich, Paris, London, for 4 years.
This is a guy that they hired to come in and replace the good-looking guy.
No, but
This is
when I was in college, right? I was in college.
Do you remember the name of your agency? The modeling agent?
It wasn't an agency. It was a lady, and her name was Pamela, and she lived in. She was from Paris.
Okay.
And she came to London, and she was looking for tall guys that could move, because her fashion shows always had a little dance, and it was very clever. It wasn't a lot of dancing, but it was like they wanted you to be smooth and sophisticated, but you had to be able to move in rhythm. And she liked tall black guys, and she liked tall white women, and she would mix us up.
Yep.
And we would do a scene where we'd come out and the guys would be in white, and we'd do hip hop, and then she'd mix in music where the girls would come out.
And these are stills. They're stills.
No, these are fashion shows in Milan.
You were
Big
doing fashion shows?
Yeah, real
like
big
the
fashion
walkways,
shows.
all that
with
kind
Naomi
of
Campbell and all those
Oh,
people.
really?
Back then when she was just starting off, yeah.
Yes.
And we'd go out there, and then they have the girls come out in tutus, and they do classical music, and they would crunch these together, and audience went crazy. So that was her thing. And so, but the problem with that was, every show that I would do with her, that we would do with her, she would book you for the next year. And so she said, the only thing I ask you, if I book you and you accept, that you do the show. And 1 year, I had been doing it for about 4 years. 1 year,
You had something else come up. But go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Batman came up. The first Batman with Jack Nicholson came up, and they offered me a part. And I looked at the date. It didn't conflict. I said, yeah, I'll do the part. Then Batman moved the dates, and it didn't conflict, but they didn't want to pay me for the dates they had booked me for. They said, well, that wasn't a real booking, but this is a real booking. I says, okay, it doesn't conflict, fine. And then they moved the dates to it conflicted, and I just says, fuck it, I'm not doing it. And I didn't realize, it was the first Batman. I didn't know it was going to be what it was going to be. And the part I had, I'm looking for leading roles. The part I had was a nice role. It was one of the reporters on the stairs of Gotham, and I'm shooting questions at Jack Nicholson. And the only reason I wanted to do it because I'd have a scene with Jack. But when they started moving it around, I just had this thing in the back of my head: if you do small parts, they treat you like a small actor, and that's what they're doing. And my ego got the best of me, and I didn't want to disappoint this lady, so I did that last show, and then I told her I couldn't do it anymore, and that's when I just kind of I couldn't moonlight anymore.
Well, I recently told my Batman story, so I'll tell you my Batman story at another time, because I told it on the podcast. But I was up.
You're going to tell me off camera, then I need to hear.
No. There's no big deal. I just met Tim Burton, and I had a couple of really good meetings with Tim Burton, and then they brought me back like a third or fourth time. It was over at Warner Brothers, and they had me with. They brought my agent Ed L'Amato, who was handling Mel Gibson, handling Michelle Pfeiffer, everybody, Denzel, everybody, that he handled, brought that in, and then they went with Keaton, Jack Nicholson, and then they told my agent that they were trying to make a decision between those two and me and Robin Williams. And so anyway, this is the second time I've told this, so anybody who's so, but and I was kind of like you. I was like, I didn't get it. Yeah. But I'm working, and you were talking about being in New York and being in a really nasty fucking area of New York. I saw something on your Wikipedia page or whatever of you grew up in Chicago. Mm-hmm. Okay, you grew up in Chicago, Southside Chicago. Mm-hmm. Okay, so like Oprah Winfrey, somebody said like the area that you grew up in was she thought was the most dangerous area in the country.
No, the story was I grew up in Chicago as a kid, and the first time I ever got robbed, I was 7 years old. And I went down to the store. My mother had given me a Kennedy 50 cents. I went down to the store to buy some milk. And just where the store was, there was an alley. And these guys pulled me in the alley and they said, give me your money. And I said, I ain't got no money. So what are you going to the store for? So basically, they took my money. And I went home. And I come from a big family. I come from a family of 5 brothers and 5 sisters. And my dad was the shit. My dad was a Golden Glove boxer. He was a loan shark. He used to lend people money, but he knew he'd get it back because he was a tough guy. He's a big dude too.
Reputation, right?
Yeah, he had a reputation, and so I couldn't wait to get home and tell my dad what had happened. And these dudes, I was like 7 years old, and they were like 12 and 14.
Yeah.
And they were calling themselves the Junior Blackstone Rangers. There was a gang called there was a gang in Chicago called the Blackstone Rangers.
Blackstone Rangers. Okay.
Very well known.
Very well known. And they were calling themselves the Junior Blackstone Rangers.
Okay.
And they were doing the same kind of stuff, just on a lower level.
Yeah.
So I get home and I tell my dad what happened. And my dad looks me in the eye, and my dad never shouted. He never raised his voice. He said, you go back out and you get that 50 cents and you don't come back until you got it.
Really? Wow.
And so at 7 years old, I walk out of the house and I go looking for those guys, but I'm not really looking. I'm just out walking at night, man. I'm walking at night.
Wow.
And after like 20 minutes, a half hour, I get the nerve to come back home, and I sneak back in home, and I sneak into bed, and I go to sleep. And my father never mentions it again. But it was his way of telling you, you got to be street smart. Don't let this happen. Nobody's going to bail you out. You got to be smart yourself and not get yourself into situations.
How old were you?
I was 7 years old, dude.
Okay, you were 7 then. How old were you when you left Chicago?
I left Chicago shortly after that because those gangs, my older brothers were at the age where gangs were really trying to pull them in.
Yeah.
And my oldest brother, he was, my father put it to him early on, what you do, all of your younger brothers are looking at you. So he had an added responsibility.
Yep.
And so when the gangs came to him, my older brother, who was a lot like my father, he says, I'm not joining your gang. And if you want me to join your gang, you're going to have to kill me. And they got into fights and whatnot, but he refused to join the gang. And my mother insisted that we move out. So now we move out to about an hour outside of Chicago to this area called Hopkins Park and Pembroke. And that was the area that Oprah Winfrey said on her show was the poorest town in America.
That you moved
We moved to.
Wow.
And that town.
Wow. But not as violent. Not
violent at all. Actually, a great place to bring up a family.
Okay.
But history on that town was that it was one of the during the Underground Railroads, it was one of the stops on the Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
And so what happened on the way north, a lot of people would stop there, but now they're out of the South, and they would just stay there. So that little town, that community was filled with it was like 99% black people, but it was poor as fuck. Didn't have paved streets, didn't have street lights, but it was a great place for farmers and to raise a family. And on my 9th birthday, my dad brings me a pony, and I think it basically was probably he lent somebody some money. They didn't have the money to pay him back, and they said, "Look, I got this horse.
Take my pony."
Take my pony." Because all of a sudden he shows up with a pony. But it was a great place to grow up as a kid, and I lived there for another 7 years until I moved away. But that was, and I didn't know I was poor until I moved away and I went to high school, and I moved. My mother and father split up, and I moved to Florida, and my high school was called Plantation High, and so I'm going to the South, and my high school is called Plantation.
Wow. In Florida?
In Florida.
Wow,
and
okay.
and this is during the time when they were busing black kids to white schools. So they bused me to this white school called Plantation, and Plantation in Florida is actually a rather affluent area.
Okay.
But for a young kid from, my roots are from Chicago, and you go to a place in your school that's called Plantation. Even at 13, I was like, this is some bullshit. and I'm almost ashamed to say what I'm about to say, but it's the truth. I walked through the aisle, the corridor the first day, and because I'd been in this neighborhood with all black people. I never saw white people. And I walked through the corridors the first day, and I see white people in person. And I remember thinking, they're so colorful. They've got like red hair, they got brown hair, they got yellow hair, they got black hair, they got blue eyes, they got green eyes, they got. I was like, wow, man, it's really colorful. And I'm walking through the aisle and I'm smiling, man. And it's Florida and it's back in the 70s, man. They looked at me like I was stone crazy. And I went from this kid who was all open-eyed to this kid that kind of became a little bit of a militant for the next few years.
Well, when did you start playing basketball?
My brothers, I mean, everybody, my father was 6 feet, and everybody in the family, all the guys were taller than him. So my eldest brother was a college star. He tried out for the Lakers, but he had a bad knee and he didn't make it. And so
Did he play college? Do you remember?
He played college, yeah.
Where, do you know
Wisconsin.
Where? Wisconsin. He was like a star at Wisconsin?
Yeah, he's got records that even stand now.
Really.
So when you grow up in a family with a bunch of boys, and you're the young one, you're always competing with them. And so I always wanted to beat them. So I started playing ball. I was balling.
How tall are you?
I'm 6'3" now.
Okay.
But at the time I was a little guy, but I was quick.
Right.
And but the problem with that was when I went to school, we were late growers. I graduated from high school. I was 5'9". I graduated. So every time I tried out for the basketball team, I got cut. But it just made me hungrier. Yeah. And later on, years later, I remember I'm in Europe and I'm working on movies and I'm still playing basketball, kind of like a semi-pro league basketball. And I would go to France and I'd say, listen, I want to go and play some pickup basketball. They were like, we don't have pickup basketball. The only place you can play ball is where the pros play. I would walk in there, 6'3", Black American, and say, I want to ball. And they'd let me ball. And I would ball them up for about the first half hour, but I wasn't in that kind of shape, so I'd get tired, and then it would be a different story. But I went to Cyprus, and same thing happened. I asked where the pros play, and they told me where they play. And I went down there, and I was killing these dudes, and they offered me a contract, a pro contract. And at the same time, and this is around the time when we were doing Aliens, right? Okay. And my career was starting to pop off, and I just thought, I cannot just stop acting for a year and play basketball. But I thought about it for a week, man, and I was seriously considering it. But my daughter had just been born. I didn't know anything about Cyprus. I didn't speak the language, and I didn't want to bring a newborn to a country I knew nothing of just because of my own ego. And it was stroking my ego, and I always thought, I would love to just do it for one season. And turns out that at that time they could only have 2 Americans on those European teams. One of the other Americans ends up playing with the Lakers years later.
What's his name?
His name is, he's a coach now. He's a coach there now. It'll come to me. I'll tell you later.
Okay. Well, I might have you mixed. I can remember 2 times playing basketball with people on movie sets before. Right. Not on the sets, but hey, you want to go play some basketball? And my memory serves me correctly. We went out, the 2 of us. It was just the 2 of us, and just it was kind of an empty court, and like kind of like a one-on-one sort of like a situation. And I grew up in a family that played sports, right. But and I've always, I'm not an athlete. To be an athlete, you have to be fast. You have to either be fast or really big and really strong,
or skilled as hell.
Be able to jump. I mean, those, like, you can be, to me, and you might think differently, you can be as skilled as you want to, but if you can't fucking be 6 feet tall and touch the rim, you're not going to get far. You run your 40-yard dash in like 7.7 seconds. You just ain't going to fucking. I don't care how fucking skilled you are. That was always my situation. But we played. I can remember playing one-on-one basketball with you, and first of all, you just fucking destroyed me, just fucking devastated me. Not that I've not been kind of destroyed before, but that was a real fucking wake-up call. The thing that I took away from that game was I can remember guarding you, and you basically, I don't know how, I was like underneath the basket, and you came running up, and you came up to fucking stuffed that fucking ball and slammed that ball. And you had your cock was right in my
on your
fucking
forehead.
right in my face. That's all I can remember is your dick in my face. My dick in your I thought, okay, let's go fucking play fucking
Another game. Let's play something else.
let's go play tennis.
Find a pool table somewhere.
But that was the one thing. I mean, my legs are skinny, and guys used to make fun. They go, "How do you jump like that with those bird legs? Those chicken legs?" But I think it helps in basketball. It's not like football or something, man. It helps. But that was my thing. I had hops. I had really good hops.
When did you? Let's talk about how. Tell me about your experience with Aliens and how you heard about it. What your audition situation was, and then I want to get your opinion about Remar and blah blah blah.
Oh,
we
yeah,
can talk
yeah.
a little bit about that.
The interesting thing about Aliens was at that point in my career as a young actor where
You had done. Tell me what you had done before that, and how much you had done.
I came to London with Hollywood credits to start with.
okay.
Because I had done Hill Street Blues for a season.
Did you do a full season on that?
No,
show?
I only did like
three episodes.
4 episodes of it.
Yeah.
I did 4
good.
episodes of Hill Street Blues, but after I did Hill Street Blues, the only thing I was being offered was I played a gang member in Hill Street Blues. And coming from Southside Chicago with my brothers and all that, I knew gang members like the back of my hand.
Yeah.
So when I went in there and did my thing, they thought it felt like it was really authentic. I remember in between a couple of the episodes, this guy walks up to me with a lumberjack kind of shirt on and a beard, and he goes, "I was watching the Russians last night, and you're really good." I didn't know who he was, and I'm glad I didn't make an ass of myself. But I put on the old actor face. I said, "Thank you, well, thank you very much."
Yeah.
It turns out he's Bochco. Stephen Bochco.
It was Stephen Bochco who said that? Right.
I didn't even know what position he had. I'd seen him, but I didn't know his position. But so I was able to do that, and when it aired, the only thing I was getting offered was other roles like that. And I did about 4 other roles like that where I'm playing gang members in different shows. And I went back to UCLA, which I bleed blue and gold. I talked to my acting coach. I says, "I'm really happy to be working right out of college, man. But I says, I'm frustrated. I have a master's degree, and the only thing they're calling me in for is gang members." And he says, "I'm happy to be working, but I feel like I got more to offer." And he suggested that I go and try out for classical theater in London. He says, "I'll arrange the audition, and if you get in, you should go. It's only a 1-year program." That's how I got to London. So I go to London and I do this 1-year program. And the first thing they ask the Americans is, "We'd like you, the Americans in here, the few of you, to acquire British accents, because we want you to be able to focus on the character and not be so focused on the accent." So you know how actors are. We're like sponges. You put us in a place where there's tomato, we're going to come out red. So I'm in England, and before I know it, my English accent is better than the English actors. And when we graduated, when we finished the program, all of my classmates, they start going on auditions.
In England.
In England.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck that, I'm going on auditions too. So I made up
Where were you living in England?
I was living in Chelsea.
You were in Chelsea?
Yeah.
Already?
Because when you were there, I was still living there.
Okay.
So I'm living in Chelsea, and I'm going on auditions with my best English accent. I make up my own national insurance number, which is their equivalent of a social security number. But they didn't have computers, so they weren't on top of that. And Michael, I started working as an Englishman, and for the next 4 years, I worked as an Englishman, doing English roles, playing Shakespeare, playing Prospero and The Tempest, played a year at the National Theater.
Really?
And I was at the National Theater for a year. They would take pictures of me. We're doing a musical, Guys and Dolls. And
can you sing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can sing, dance, and act.
Wow.
Wow.
What did you play in Guys and Dolls?
Liver Lips Louie, and I understudied
cool.
Big Julie. and so our show was a hit. It was 110% sold out every night for a year.
And what theater do you remember?
The National Theater. They have 2 big companies.
Wow.
And that was the one I was at for a year.
I didn't know that.
And dude, they would put my picture in the paper, and I would go on stage the next day and come off stage at the end of the show thinking that immigration is going to be waiting for me.
Because
I was still illegal.
Right.
It was the scariest thing. And then I got used to it. But then after 4 years, I met this girl. We ended up hooking up and buying property. And once I bought the property, I was able to get legal. And I remember walking out there.
Did you get legal because of her or because you bought property? Or just combination of...
Normally you have to get married. But because we had bought a property, when we went into the interview, and our property was in Chelsea, the guy saw I wasn't going to be a burden on the state.
Right.
And he says, you know what? Get married when you want to.
Okay.
And so we ended up never getting married. But I'm the only person that I ever met that was able to get that.
Is this the woman you're still with?
This is the woman that I have 2 kids with.
Yeah, okay.
We're not together anymore.
Okay,
we have 2 kids.
Right.
So it was a beautiful thing. But shortly after that, after I got legal, that's when I started feeling like, okay, now I can do American parts. So I started going up for American parts that were shot in Europe or and cast in London. And that's when I got Aliens. And at the same time I got Aliens, I got Full Metal Jacket. And they conflicted 1 week. And Kubrick really wanted me.
For
Full Metal Jacket.
Do you know it was for the role that...
It was a role for... It was.
Do you know who played the role eventually?
I'm not sure because
Okay.
this is what happened. The role was for Lieutenant Cleveland. I think was the character's name, Cleveland, and Kubrick says, I want you for 8 weeks, and these are the 8 weeks. And he booked me, and he sent in the offer, and then James. I had met with James before Kubrick, and James had said, I really want you, but he had me read your part and Bill's part.
Yes.
And because those were the parts where he felt like he can see if I could act.
Yeah, of course.
And I read them, but I got attached to them. And so James said when I left, I said, he says, I really like you.
But can I ask a question? I'm sorry to interrupt. Had you seen Terminator? Did you know who Jim was?
I did not.
You
know
don't
who Jim
remember?
was.
Yeah, but
I
go
did
ahead.
not.
Right, go ahead. Keep
but
talking.
I knew who Stanley Kubrick was.
Yeah.
But I didn't know who Jim was.
Okay. All right.
And so but Jim had said after I saw him the first time, he says, before you accept anything else, would you at least come and see me? I says, well, the only 2 roles I'm really interested in are these 2 that I've read. And he said, well, I haven't seen anybody else for them. I can't offer you that, but just come and see me before you accept anything else. So Kubrick offers me that, and to my word, I came back to Jim and I said, Jim, I want to meet with you because Kubrick's offered me this role. So we met up, and Jim says, listen, I can't give you that role, but what I can do is I can take 3 of the characters, put them together, create 1 character, and that'll be your character.
Frost.
Frost. And he says, Kubrick wouldn't let me read the script either because when I was trying to make a decision, I wanted to read the script.
Of course.
Compare them.
Yeah.
And Kubrick says, we don't have a full script. What we're going to do is we're going to take you guys, we're going to workshop it, and what you bring to it is what we're going to pull out of it.
Kubrick?
Kubrick.
That's because you can't fucking write. But
right.
Go ahead.
But for an actor, I'm thinking, we're going to get in here and just improv and work.
Yeah.
I'm
Good.
I'm down with that.
Yeah.
But so I'm cool with that. But then I asked him, can you pay me? Because he's paying
scale.
everybody scale.
Yep.
And he goes, nope, everybody's getting scale, so you'd be getting scale too. And it overlapped 1 week, and then when I met with Jim says, I will let you come to Aliens 1 week late if Kubrick will release you after the 8 weeks. So I get on the phone and we talked. My agent talks.
You would have been there fucking 8 months, but
right?
anyway, knowing Kubrick the way that I know him,
Michael, you are absolutely right because it took them a year to shoot that fucking film.
It took them 2 years to shoot that fucking movie.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So you know how long I would have been there.
Yes.
So I go back to Kubrick and I said, can you release me? I really want to do the movie, but I have to be released after 8 weeks. He goes, I can't release you after 8 weeks. And so then we basically said we can't do the movie, and he was so offended. So he called back a few times. He goes, are you really saying you're not going to do? You're turning this down? And I was like, man, I
Kubrick personally?
He was talking with my people. He wasn't talking to me.
Yeah.
He was talking to my people.
Yeah.
And so we said, we would love to work with you again in the future, but if you can't release them, we're going to go with the other project. And that was I never looked back after that, man. And cool. And then I talked. They were shooting at the same time we were shooting in London. Yeah. And I remember that we went out one day. Some of us went out and we bumped into them out in London at some club or a bar or something. And they were fucking miserable.
Yeah, of course they were.
They were
working with Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah, and
of course they were miserable.
And we were happy as fuck working on Aliens, man. And they were miserable. And I was talking to one of the guys. There was another brother on the show. And I wonder whether he had my.
Well, what's the name of the black actor who gets shot? And
he's the one I'm talking about. Dorian Hayward.
Dorian's story was basically, He's working for Scale. He's there for fucking 6 months.
And Dorian had a lot of work at that time.
He had a lot of stuff going on. He's an
Yeah.
opera singer now, I
And
think.
he had a music career.
He's on Broadway right now.
Active
Oh, yeah,
music
okay, he's on
career.
Broadway.
He's on Broadway.
Yeah, this guy, he's a talented guy. He was there for 6 months or something along those lines. They still hadn't done anything with him, or he still hadn't worked, or hadn't worked hardly at all.
Stretching it out.
He was going to be there for 2 years, and he was like,
Still getting paid Scale.
Getting paid Scale. He's like, fuck this shit. I want out. I'm out. So Kubrick took him and said, okay, you want out? We'll let you out. And they shot, because Kubrick, like a fucking whatever. He shot that movie. It was supposed to be Vietnam, obviously. Right. He shot it in December. So like the whole thing of him not wanting to leave, such a baby, wouldn't leave his own country to go to like Thailand or whatever, to shoot. So Dorian Harewood, they put a bunch of squibs on him. And they do that scene where he's like running across and he gets shot and and it's mud and it's fucking dirt
and all that shit.
And they did that fucking over and over and over and over to him. And I think Dorian would tell you that was Stanley Kubrick's way of saying, fuck you. You want off my show.
Goodbye.
That's exactly what Dorian told me.
Yeah. Oh, okay. He did.
Exactly
Good.
the same story that you heard as a true story. He said they were trying to match that. There was a shot and there's a famous photograph in that they had around the time of some soldier dying, and then at the top of the poster they had Y. And they were trying to recreate that on film, kind of. So they had him going, and he's getting shot, and his hands go up, and it mimics that poster, that famous shot, iconic shot. But Dorian said, we did the shot, and we got it, and Kubrick just looked at him and just kept, let's do it again. And then at one point, Dorian just looked at him, and he says, Kubrick just smiled at me. And he says, I knew what was up.
Right.
He's saying, okay, fuck you. You want to get out. And Dorian was saying, I wasn't trying to hijack the film. He just said that, but at this point, he says, I was losing money.
Yes.
Because I'm getting offers at my pay. And so he says, I went to Kubrick, and I says, Kubrick, I'm getting these offers. I will stay on the show, but can you pay me my fee now?
Yeah.
And Kubrick says, no, you're getting paid what everybody else is getting paid. And Dorian said, well, I'm not gonna extend.
Yeah,
and
cheap bastard amongst other things.
That's when he did that to him.
Yeah. Well, we Jim and I and Timmy Colsari, we all have a long history talking about Kubrick, and I don't know if you remember Timmy being on our set very much, but he wasn't allowed to be around the other actors, so he started hanging out with me, and I brought him to our set. And Jim kind of took him under his wings. Sigourney liked him, and so on. I can remember going out with Vince D'Onofrio. Here's my feeling about the movie. And Stanley Kubrick's done a couple of great movies, but most of his stuff I can't really stomach. Full Metal Jacket to me is a fucking brilliant movie.
It was a good
right
movie.
up until the point where Vince D'Onofrio fucking shoots himself and blows his fucking head off, shoots the drill sergeant, shoots Lee Ermey, and then kills himself.
Jumps the shark.
After that, the rest of the movie just kind of like goes this way and a little bit that way, and then then the fucking that way, and then it ends with them singing what, Jim? Like some
Mickey Mouse.
Yeah. Just like, you know what, Stanley, I don't, you're so fucking brilliant that we can't understand you. That's what everybody always talks about. Like, well, you can interpret it this way. You can interpret it that way. You can interpret it this way. No, make me a fucking movie that I don't have to interpret.
To work so hard.
Right.
No, but it was a great opportunity, and it was at a time when imagine having both those movies under your belt.
No,
it would have been a fucking great thing. If it had worked out the other way, because Jim was more on schedule, I think it would have been okay. But Kubrick, man, those guys shot for so long, and they were miserable. I would have loved the experience as an actor and as an artist to work with him. But I think I made the right choice in the end, though. But I did.
Michael told me that Kubrick started Full Metal Jacket, that Cameron started Aliens after that, and had it finished and in the can.
In the theaters. In the theaters. It was in the theaters, and he was still shooting Full Metal Jacket. That's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
I know that if you look at the timeline, it works.
Yeah.
No.
And and anyway, the end of that. Anyway, so let's get back to Aliens, because I could talk about how much I fucking hate that fucking man for ever.
When I got the script though for Aliens, I was a little pissed off though, because in the 80s, if you guys can remember, there were so many movies where the black guy was the first one to go, and so then I read the script and I'm loving the script, man, but I'm the first one to go, and so I just thought, man, I got to talk to Jim about this. So I get to the set and I talked to Jim about it, and I said, Jim, man, you told me you're going to rewrite the script, you're going to hook me up with these characters, and I said it all starts off really good and I'm feeling it, but I'm the first one to go. And he goes, Ricco, you're 6'3", you're 200 pounds. He goes, I got to get rid of you. He said, I got to get rid of all of you. He says, because this is the first film for a female action star, and if you guys are around, you're going to be handling the problems. And we need her to handle it because she has to, not because she wants to, but because she has to. So we got to get rid of all of you. And he was right. He was absolutely right. But he left me with this caveat. He says, and I've set you up so that when you go, they're going to feel it. The audience are going to feel it. They're gonna know that the shit hit the fan, and that's when the movie's going to really start rocking. And true to his word, I get fans all the time coming to me saying, "Oh man, you died too soon. Oh man, I wish you had said." And that was his intention. He wanted them to feel that death, and I think that he kept to his word.
Well, that what you just said about black guys getting killed first and so on and so forth brings me kind of I wanted to ask you about race, being black in the film community. I mean, do you feel like you were born about 4 decades too early? Because like now it is, you'd be fucking nonstop. You would not be able to stop working if you eat, right? I mean,
I'm wondering.
There were no black actors even around when I was, early 70s. It was like when the Jeffersons came on, that was like, oh my God, it's a story about black people. Oh, isn't this interesting? Right?
You are absolutely right. But one of the things about me is I am this kind of eternal optimist. When I started working in Hollywood, I was shocked that I started working. One of the things at UCLA grad school, first of all, I got accepted to UCLA, which only accepted something like 5% of the applicants. And I got accepted. My class at UCLA they only accepted 12 people. And I was the only black person to get accepted. But not only did they accept me, they offered me not a scholarship, but a fellowship. Because I'm a poor kid living in Florida. I went to undergrad in Florida. And even if they had offered it to me, I couldn't have taken advantage of it. So they offered me with a fellowship, meaning that only thing I had to do was maintain a 3.0 average, and they would pay for everything. And so when I got accepted there, I felt like I've broken through this color
They
shit.
paid for you to live? They put you in a dormitory, eat?
A stipend, yeah.
Yep, everything.
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
What's the difference between, what did you say?
A scholarship? A scholarship, all your classes are free.
Okay.
But you gotta feed yourself maybe, or you gotta pay rent. A fellowship, you ain't gotta pay nothing.
Oh wow!
Only thing you have to do is come to school.
And they did that because what? They did that because why?
Michael, I don't know whether it was affirmative action. I don't know what, because personally, if I'm honest, I didn't think I was that good to deserve it out of all the applicants that probably have done. But they told me if you really want to get in, you should fly out here and audition in person as opposed to sending in a tape. And so I scrapped up money from my friends, from my family, and I flew from Florida to Los Angeles, and I came in person and I auditioned and I went back. And you
auditioned in acting, like a piece?
I had to do a monologue.
Oh wow!
I had to do a couple. I had to do 2 monologues.
Oh wow!
And I flew back, and they said, "We'll let you know in 2 weeks." In 2 weeks, nothing came. After another week, I called them up and I said, you guys said you were going to let me know. Did I not get it? And they said, hold on. And then he came back and said, oh, no, you got in. The letters will go out tomorrow. And not only that, you've got a fellowship. And I didn't know what the word meant.
I didn't know what it meant right now.
Exactly.
The fact that you didn't know what it meant back then, I understand.
I didn't know what it meant. And when I got it, Michael, I tell you, that was the happiest day of my life because for the first time I thought, I am out of the hood for good. I'm out of the hood for good. And
Are you ever like parents and brothers and sisters like just so proud of you? And
well, my family, they were, man. They were proud that I was going to college, first of all.
Yeah.
And they were even more proud that I was going to grad
Fresh
school.
Prince of Westwood.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Nice one, Jim. I'm going to grab that tag, man. I'm going to hold on to that. But yeah, they were proud that but my family always kind of encouraged our kids to be professional. Whatever you want to do, just be a professional at it and try and work for yourself if you can. But they were more into business. So I was the only one out of 11 kids to go into the arts. And the arts is a shaky thing to go into. Because,
yes.
As you know, in Hollywood right now, less than 2% of actors can support themselves from acting alone.
Yes.
So I went in, and when I got in, man, it was the happiest day of my life. But I'm a kid from the hood, and I don't have the discipline. And so by the end of the year, I ended up sleeping through one of the exams, and then the teacher failed me, and I lost my fellowship. So the second year I was there, I had to work during it, but I built my grades back up, and I ended up graduating with good grades. But it was a big lesson from a kid who didn't really have the discipline of college to go through that. But even as I finished, UCLA would not allow you to audition while you're in there.
Right,
and
right.
I snuck one time and I auditioned because there was a role for White Shadow. They had
I remember that.
Yeah.
White
series,
Shadow, and they
right?
wanted basketball players.
Right.
And I was in my prime, and I'm like 22, 21 years old, and I am like fierce. And I had played with the basketball team.
Where were you when they shot White Men Can't Jump?
At
Were
UCLA.
At UCLA. Did you have a chance to audition for that?
Well, what I did,
I did.
I auditioned for it.
You
And
did. Did
I
you play?
auditioned-
Did you play basketball for him?
Listen. I'm gonna tell you. I auditioned and I did well in the audition. They hit the acting audition first, and they said we're gonna cast 4 new characters, and we're only asking 8 guys to play ball, and you are the 4 guys. You are the 8 guys that we thought we want to offer back. So this is, we need you to come and play ball. And if you can play ball, we're going to pick from those 4. So I thought, this is my role because I'm going to kill them on the court. I'm going to be dunking on people. And shit.
Yeah.
And so I had another exam that day, and I thought, I can't skip this exam. So I'm going to go to this exam, and then I'm going to shoot up in the valley, and I'm going to do this, play ball.
Yeah.
And I did the exam, and you can't shoot anywhere in L.A. on traffic. Man, I got to the audition. Everybody was gone. And they were just packing up, and the guy goes, well, look, you can shoot around if you want, and just let me see if you can shoot. And long story short, I didn't get the job. But I think that would have been the start of my career, because I think if I had shown up with the other guys and played with those other guys, I think I would have gotten that job. But, for me, in answer to your question, the being black, I've always, man, I think being tall, I think not looking as Africanic as some black people look, it helped me, because as I was leaving UCLA, I was just about to leave, my acting coach came to me and he says, there's a role, they're looking for a character to be on Young and the Restless. And they've just offered this guy, David Hasselhoff.
David Hasselhoff?
Hasselhoff was on Young and the Restless.
Yeah.
And he's going to the gym. They don't
isn't that the guy, Jim, that was trying to eat the hamburger in the...
Yes. I'm not even going to bring that up. I'm not even going to say anything about that.
I didn't say anything, except for that he was trying to eat a hamburger once. Had a little trouble getting it down.
Trouble figuring out where his mouth was.
Yes, that David Hasselhoff. So David had just been made a regular on it. He was playing day roles, and he had just made him a regular, but they didn't have a home for him. So they would only meet at the gym. So I was one of his buddies, and we would meet at the gym. So that's where we would meet. And I remember they had
the characters, not
the characters.
The
characters.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
And so I'm by the third time I'm meeting at the gym, and I'm playing these under 5 roles, and I'm
under
hungry.
5, meaning under 5 lines. Okay,
yeah, under 5. And so I'm hungry, man, and I'm getting these under 5s every time. And then David pulls me over to the side. He says, "Ricco, I did this for a year." and now I'm a regular. Now I'm a lead. So he says, just stick with it. But I didn't have the patience. So next time they offered me come in, I was like, nah, I'm out.
Right. Did you remember, like, when you did that? Because the one thing about soap operas that, you know, people aren't aware of, like, you know, you shoot, when we do Aliens, people ask me, oh, it must have been so difficult coming in and, like, taking over, you know, for, like, Hicks. And, like, you know, you got to learn all that dialogue. And you're there on the set. And I'm like, yeah, fucking Hicks never really says very much, you know. He's always asleep. He grunts once or twice, you know. Got a line here and a line there. I don't know. I'm losing my train of thought.
No, but
go ahead.
Soap operas are so different. They're
that's
the opposite.
Yeah, you took like 20 pages.
Dude,
20
you show
pages.
up in the morning time. You got you do a read through. You have lunch. You do a walkthrough with the cameras, a dry walkthrough. What dry means that they're not filming; they're just seeing where you're going to be. And then after that, you shoot it. And then when you finish shooting, it's evening time. They give you the script for the next day, and you're going to do it all over again. So when you see these soap opera acting, and they're going, they're trying to remember their damn lines.
Yeah.
Because, and I have a whole new appreciation for those guys because
Yeah.
it is not easy. Like you said, they shoot so fast that you're lucky they can even get the lines out, man. And when you're shooting on a film, you got time to play with things. You got time to have different takes and give it different colors and flavors. And a lot of times it's not even talking. It's just action.
Let me ask you about, did you go through some sort of like military drilling on Aliens, like somebody like that was teaching you how to march and salute and say yes sir? And
they brought in this guy, and he was a sergeant guy, the real deal, but he was British.
Okay.
He wasn't American,
Okay,
but he was
all right.
British. But he had the same kind of flavor, you know,
Yeah.
in your ass, and you're gonna do it. And so they had us come in before we ever started shooting. And we just worked on that for over a week, and they just put us into drills, and they gave us sign language. This is how you communicate when you can't talk, when you have to be quiet, and you didn't do it right. Drop, give me 25, and you got to knock out 25 push-ups. And he was treating us like we were really in boot camp. But what that did was that galvanized all of us. And me and Remar were always together, and we would fuck up together and end up doing push-ups, looking at each other while we're doing push-ups, you know. And we're having a great time. We really kind of got that buddy feel. And I remember when he left the film, and I was hurt, man. It was like a family member, man, like one of my brothers that had just pulled him out.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
they said, we got this guy Michael's coming in who's going to take over the role. And I remember when you first came, I was like, fuck, man, I don't know this dude.
Pretty boy
coming here all blonde and cute. And Remar would talk like this.
Yeah, I know.
He was nasty with it.
I know.
And then Michael was so soft with it, and I was like, fuck. But you know, it was a really good lesson for a young actor.
Had you seen
You're not that far. I was pretty young too. You're only 2 years younger.
I know,
So
right?
let me just.
But no, I remember that I had seen Terminator, but I did not associate that with Jim Cameron.
Okay. Yeah.
So when I saw Michael, then it clicked. Now I got it, right? So now Michael comes in, and so he's doing his thing, but his take on the character was so different that I was disappointed. But what I'm saying about as a young actor, and it was a great lesson for me, is that I thought there's only one way to do a good role. And I thought Jim had, Remar had captured it. And then Michael comes on, and he flips it and plays it a completely different way, and he captures it. And I remember thinking, okay, that, you know, there's more than one way to skin a cat, but you still got to be good at it. Whatever choice you make, it's got to be a good choice, and you got to be able to deliver it that way. Jim was always, he was always kind of like, you knew that he would go off the handle. With your character, you didn't know when he was going to go off the handle, but you felt like if he did have to go off the handle, it's going to be some shit. And that was the difference in the two portrayals of the character. And I thought that was really good. And I think it really worked better for the film because then it allowed Bill Paxton to be the loudmouth and you to be the strong guy that when the shit really hits the fan, this is the guy that's gonna make sure everything happens the way it should happen. You know? So I thought it ended up working out for the good. But it was a hard hit when Remar left the set. And I bumped into Remar maybe like 10 years after Aliens in a blockbuster, and he didn't even recognize me, man. I was like, damn, bro.
Even after you said I was like,
No, once I recognized him right away,
Yeah,
but he didn't recognize me. And then I started talking to him. Then he goes, "Oh yeah."
yeah.
But I had heard that he had gone through some issues with substance, and maybe that had fucked up his memory a little bit. But no, I had a lot of love for that guy when we were working on set.
Well, he, he's been working ever since then.
Yeah.
And,
he has.
He knows he's fucked up. He fucked up, and he's been
He cleaned
very
it up.
upfront about the whole situation.
And he cleaned it up. And he's doing good work now, too.
I know. And he's always he's a working actor. He's been working ever since. And,
Always.
But
And he delivers.
Yeah. But, one of the things that when I come in and take over a role, I don't come in and look at it and go, well, I'm just going to play it this way. I'm going to play it this way. I look at it and I don't preconceive what I'm going to do, and I kind of wait until I'm in the moment to see what's happening. And I don't know what we shot, and I don't remember. I'd like to see the schedule and what we shot the first couple of weeks and stuff. But Jim and Gail sat me down after. Well, they didn't sit me down. Whatever. It was just Jim and Gail just kind of moseyed up to me one day and said, "Michael, we like that smile. We like your smile, And if you think about Aliens, you think about like the first time I see Sigourney and she's driving that thing around me and the sergeant, so look at this, oh my goodness, and playing the, I think I mentioned this on this before, but playing somebody that would be submissive is the wrong word, but to Sigourney, like she's in charge. Well, let's ask her. She's the smart one. She's been here, to be able to kind of, take that on, which turns out to be a strength. And it's in Jim's, it's in his script. He wrote it. I didn't create that, he wrote it, So I never felt. And I feel the same way with Johnny Ringo. I feel the same way with a lot of characters that I play. That Anyway, I look at that. I look at that script and I just took it kind of day by day, and I played it the way that I would if I was that person, and. I think it, like you said, it would have been completely different than what James was doing. Completely different. But one of the moments that I mentioned about me as an actor being kind of something that I remember as a choice that I made was when they're arguing about who's in charge. And they say, Hicks is in charge. She says, I think Hicks is in charge. Instead of saying, yeah, I'm in fucking charge, and this is what we're going to do. I made a choice back then. I don't remember making it or whatever, but I made the choice to go like, oh, fuck. Yeah, I'm in charge. Shit. All right, well, boom, And it's little things like that you do that can really...
really make the character.
Really make a difference.
And show the depth of the character. And I also think that smile that you would do, it would in an atmosphere of potential great danger and chaos, for somebody to smile, that they know what they're doing. They can handle themselves. And I think that gave you a strength in smiling, because that's an area where a lot of people their ass is tight. And you're able to smile under that circumstance. And I think that was probably a very interesting choice for them to make for you. But how was it for you being thrown into there? Because I think you told me this one time that you got a phone call and was told, this is the job, this is the script, you got 24 hours to get on a plane or some shit like that, and you had to make quick decisions and then get on set with a group of people who had already galvanized and been working on it for a couple of weeks, and then you've been thrown into the pot like that.
Except for what people don't. Let me just add to what you said. Yes to everything you said, but number one, I was the only guy who had done a movie with Jim Cameron and Gail Hurd. Okay? So I had a whole years of experience,
History.
not only being an actor for them, but back in the day, Jim used to be like, come in, watch the daily. So I've got a rough cut of Tech Noir. I want you to come in and watch this. You know, we used to hang out. We used to that was before he didn't have time for anything other than the brilliance of so I knew them. It's the same way like on The Abyss. There were problems with other people on The Abyss. I didn't have any problems with it. I knew what to expect when I came in. I knew who Jim was, and Jim knew who I was. And so I never felt any pressure. I never felt any. I wasn't nervous. I was grateful. And Bill and I, Paxton and I had done Lords of Discipline. He had a small part in Terminator.
Right.
But we used to hang out. I mean, Bill and I, before he met Louise, we were tight. We were really, really tight. And we used to hang out. And I used to go down to the beach all the time. This is where he lived, below Santa Monica. What's it called? The crazy-ass area of the beach.
Manhattan Beach?
What?
Manhattan?
No, not Manhattan. No, right below.
Venice?
Venice, yeah. He used to live down there. So I knew Bill. And I've got a funny story about me and Bill.
You don't know if you should say it. Because I think I've heard this one.
I told you this story, right? Okay, so I'll save this for another point because you've already heard this story. But it was Bill and I basically moving to London, and because they had. Everybody, you were living in Chelsea. That's right. And that's where I ended up, which was kind of a cross between Beverly Hills and Melrose. Yep. I mean, you expected to see, Jimi Hendrix, if he would have been alive, walking down the street. And those,
dude, I'm walking down the street. There's a road that's like Melrose, and they call it King's Road. I'm walking down
King's
the street.
Road, of course, yeah.
And I see this couple walking out of the theater, and I see the black girl, and at the time, I'm modeling, like moonlight and modeling, and I see this black girl, and I think, oh, I know her, and I'm about to walk up to say hi to her, not noticing the white guy that's next to her is fucking David Bowie. And that was Iman. And that was Iman. And I didn't know Iman, but I just felt like I knew her, and I knew she was a model, and I was modeling at the time, and I'm about to speak to them, and a group of girls come out in front of me, and they see them, and they approach them, and both David Bowie and Iman crossed the street in traffic to get to the other side. And I remember thinking, young actors, we always want fame.
Yeah.
We want fortune, but we want fame.
Yeah.
And I remember for the first time in my life, I thought, there is a fucking price to pay for it, because no matter where they go, no matter what country they're in, what city, every time they step out of the street, this is what they got to deal with. And that's probably cool for like the first week. But then after that, man, you got to deal with this shit every time. And when they came out of the movie, you can tell their heads were still in the movie. They came out, they had a nice date and all that. And then the madness starts. And I was going to be the one to start that, and these girls jumped up. So, yeah, you're right. You bump into anybody.
It was David Bowie, and he was dating
Iman.
Not Naomi Campbell.
No, Iman. Iman was I think she just went by one name. She was Ethiopian top model.
Black. She was black.
Black top model.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, finish your story.
Was I telling?
So yeah, you were saying that in Chelsea you can meet anybody, and you were living in Chelsea. I was living in Chelsea. We were living right down the street from each other.
Yeah, we did, and at that, people asked me about the movies, and that time in my life, the dollar was really strong, and when I originally went over to do the movie, one of the things that I was told was like everybody's staying in a town called Slough, which was like right next to the studio. And I'm like, okay, I'll go to Slough. And I went to Slough, and I looked around.
I
and
see why they named it Slough.
Fuck this shit, man. I didn't come over here to live in this, you know. I mean, I understand why Jim and Gail want to live here, but because they, he's putting in they're both putting in 18-hour days.
Exactly.
So I was like, fuck this. So I was in Slough for a week, and I said, yeah, through my agents or whatever, I want to live in London. And then next thing I know, I'm moving to Chelsea,
right,
which is a spectacular part of town, and the King's Road is famous for all kind
of shit in the 60s. It was the shit.
Yes,
Punk rock started there. It was something else. As a matter of fact, that was the first time you and I dropped you off, and I was right around the corner, and I was just going to walk home, and when they dropped you off, there was a pacifier.
A what?
A pacifier.
What's that?
A baby's pacifier.
A pacifier.
Pacifier.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was in the kind of the gutter of the street, and it was right outside where you were staying. And I remember you picked it up, and you told me that your girl had just bounced.
Yeah, she bounces all right. I bounced, and then she bounced.
Oh man! And I remember you just looked at that. You looked at that pacifier, man, and it was one of your kids, one of the twins. Was it one of the twins? It was one of the twins, and you told me that that she had just bounced, and I saw this other side.
What a symbol!
And I saw this other side of you, man. I remember, and I just that's when I first felt like, okay, I get this guy, and yeah, we're good together. Yeah, that was the first time I really felt like, okay, now we're buddies now.
Well, what happened to me was that I've always been very frightened of rejection, very, very frightened of rejection. So from a kid, from the time I was in high school, all through college, all through my early acting years, I never approached women. I never approach, hey, how you doing? You want to have a drink? Or, I'm sitting in a bar at the dances at school. I'd be the one guy standing over here that never danced because I was afraid I was going to ask somebody to dance. They say no. And I was just
don't want to get shot down.
Right. And, when I met my first wife, it was, she was a waitress, and I was in a restaurant. I was like, oh, she's cute.
I was with you that night. I was with you that night.
And that was Matt Collins, right? With us?
He might have been.
Yeah, well, Matt Collins, because I wouldn't approach her, and I don't think you, Jim. I don't think you, Matt. The way that I remember it, it was Matt. Matt Collins is a model who was on the cover of the book Looking Good, and it was Bruce Weber's fine back in the day. I used to hang around with him. And who's the girl who's in Lethal Weapon? The model?
Renee Russo.
Renee Russo. Before she was an actress, she was a huge model. And I used to sit around and hang out with them all day long. But what was I talking about? Now I started talking about pretty people. And I lost
your
my
wife. Me and your wife.
Oh, my wife, right. See, that's what happened. That's what happened. Her. So what happened is, I got married, and I was faithful to my wife for, we met maybe a year and a half or two. Then we got married. We were married for 7 years, and I was faithful to her for that 9-year period of time. I was faithful.
Which isn't an easy thing to do.
By the time I got over to England, the Terminator had come out, and women had seen the Terminator, and
you were getting attention like a motherfucker, right?
Attention, yes, and when you have women like Patsy Kensit who just lets you know that they're available, and and I mentioned Patsy because we had a thing that happened later on, but I was not used to women introducing themselves and then just immediately dropping to their knees.
I enjoyed it, but I wasn't used to it.
I was not used to that at all, and I wasn't very good at going. I can't. I'm married. So that happened. I actually met a girl over there named Janine.
I remember Janine.
You remember her?
I think I remember Janine.
It's a crazy story about.
Cute, she's pretty.
She was very pretty, and
very pretty. Had a nice
goes
smile
back to,
too.
Have we talked about the Lord's Edition? Yeah, we already talked about it. Already talked about that story, but
before you tell this story, there's a line that comes to mind that Chris Rock says in his comedy, and it says that guys can choose to stop chasing pussy. But when pussy chases them, they're caught.
Well, Chris Rock and I had something in common, back.
Well, go ahead. Talk about Patsy.
Well, no. There's really not. That happened later on with Patsy. I've just never.
Were you guys working on a project together when
Patsy and I did a movie together. Actually, the director of. I just got offered something today, and. They haven't negotiated. I mentioned it to you earlier. Right. It's a good project.
You can't tell us the name of it?
I don't even remember the name. Okay. I just read the script.
But you love the script?
I love the script. I love
the big movie.
Yeah, it's a big.
Stop there.
Stop there.
Reset there. I don't know.
You can drop that out if we need to. Yeah. What we're talking
But Patsy,
about?
you said you had worked with her on a number of different projects?
With Patsy. You were talking about Patsy and this.
Oh, yeah. He mentioned a movie I did called Time Bomb, which he wrote a letter to me, the director of the movie that I just got the offer for.
Okay.
And he wrote a letter to me, and he blah, 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 Terminator and Aliens and Time Bomb. And I told my stunt crew to watch Time Bomb because I was like, it was in my mind, it was a pretty forgettable movie, except for Patsy Kensit. Was not very forgettable.
I hear you.
Patsy Kensit. Patsy Kensit and I were an item for a while, and what happened is we met on that movie. I left his mother. I went with her, told her right away. I've always been honest. I've always been upfront. Oh, by the way, this is going on. Told her. She was obviously, this is my second wife. And so I was with Patsy, and we were together, stayed in Santa. We stayed with each other for 6 months or 10 months after the shoot. And then we moved into a house that I had. And then there was some point I was supposed to go to England. And something told me, I was still married, something told me that kind of paparazzi thing, that I basically kind of been able to stay away from any of that shit, Once I got over to England with Patsy Kensit, was going to be kind of explode, and I wasn't going to be able to get out of that. And one of the things that kind of split us up was the fact that I promised her that I would go to England, and then when the time came, I didn't go. But we're not here to talk about Patsy. What's the thing that you're
working on now?
Yeah,
the Netflix. I'm working on this Netflix new project, and normally with these Netflix series, they don't want to risk giving you a lot of episodes because they don't know how it's going to be. But they offer us 16 1-hour.
That's because of the producer of it, right?
But the producer is Tyler Perry,
right?
And it's his first Netflix series, and it's kind of like a cross between P-Valley. I don't know if people have seen P-Valley out there, but P-Valley, I did the first season of that, and then it's kind of like a cross between P-Valley and Succession. I don't know if you've seen Succession. It's about this very wealthy family, and I play.
Oh, it's good.
It's a great show.
Yeah, that's a
great
good show.
series.
Very good show.
And I play the father. Very similar kind of father.
Okay.
But my sons are real fuck ups.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I have a very bad relationship. But the character that he cast me in, it's got so many layers on it that it's crazy, and it's like a dream role for an actor. It's very challenging. But we're talking about Michael Winner, how fast Michael Winner shoots.
Yes.
Michael, the first day I show up on set, they had told me that he shoots fast. The first day I show up,
who's he?
Tyler Perry.
Tyler's directing.
directing and writing
Oh,
all
wow.
episodes.
Wow. Okay.
And we're shooting it on
writing all the episodes.
Wrote all the episodes, shooting all the episodes, producing it, everything. It's his baby.
At his studio, right?
At his studio.
Yeah, right.
He's killing it. But they told me that he shot fast. They told me a week ahead of time.
Okay.
And I remember reading the 16 hours of, the 16 1-hour episodes. And I said, I got to get on this before we get on set. I got to read through the whole thing, and it's going to take some time. And I read the first 2 episodes, and I said, I couldn't put it down. I wanted to read the third. I read the third episode, and there's a cliffhanger. I had to read the fourth. I ended up reading 4 episodes the first time I picked it up. But I thought, how are you going to do all this? Because there's a lot going on. How are you going to do all this? But then I had to remember it's over a 16 1-hour episode project. So it works in that respect. But when I get on set the first day, Michael, they bring me a script that's it's like an inch thick. And I'm thinking it's the first episode or something.
Yeah.
And they're going, no, this is the shooting schedule for the day. It's 81 pages. 81 pages for the first day, too.
The shooting schedule of what you're going to be shooting that day?
What we're going to be shooting
is
that day. 81 pages, dude. And I remember my butt clenched.
81 pages.
I thought, I got to come in here. I got to play this guy who is an alpha male, and I got to know what I'm doing. And I got to remember all this. But then I also thought, Ricco, you probably have more experience than anybody on this set, and everybody's got to do it. And if they can do it, you damn sure should be able to do it. So I just thought, I'm going to do one scene at a time. I'm going to kill that scene, and then after that, I'll think about the next scene. So I had made myself familiar with all of the episodes, but you can't learn 16 hours, that many. And normally this would take 6 months to shoot. We shot it in 6 weeks.
Wow.
At one point, one day,
how many episodes?
All 16.
16 episodes in 6 weeks?
In 6 weeks.
5-day weeks or 6-day weeks?
6-day weeks.
6-day weeks. Wow.
16 episodes. And one day we shot 121 pages. On my birthday, we shot 121 pages. And it's my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. But Tyler is a different. Tyler is the Elon Musk of filmmaking. You're not going to have everything that you have in that Mustang, the rumble and all that, but you are going to have some efficiency that's going to make up for it. So I think that maybe we may lose 10% of quality, but what we will do is we will deliver something that is going to be really special.
What's it called?
Beauty in Black, and it's my company in the film. It's my company, and it's when you first meet me, you think that my character is working class guy. He's on a fixed income. Later on, you find out this dude
he owns it.
He owns it. He's the owner. The guy has so many different layers. It is a dream role, and it's challenging, But I can't wait till it comes out. As a matter of fact, it drops in a couple of weeks, and we're gonna.
What? Tell me the name again.
Beauty in Black.
Beauty in Black.
Will they drop all at once, or will they?
No, they're dropping 8 on the 24th of October, and then they haven't announced when they're going to drop the other 8. But they asked me to hold the 17th till the 24th just for press because we're going to do press on it, and I think we're going to go out to Atlanta and have a big screening for the opening on the 24th. But yeah, it's gonna make some noise, man. People are either going to love it or they're going to hate it, but they're going to have an opinion.
Well, that's exciting.
It is exciting, and what's even more exciting. I don't want to be spoiler alert, but Tyler came to me. We had shot this one scene, and my character, I'm playing him like Mike Biehn, right? In Aliens, I'm cool as a cucumber, baby. And I don't raise my voice. But one scene, it all kind of comes to a climate, and I kind of I have to go for it, and I have to go for it like I would go for it, And I really get myself into it. And Tyler pulls me over after the scene, and he points to the monitors. And I look at the monitors, and there's 75 people, actors and crew. Wow. They're all looking at the monitor as the scene's being shown over. He says that doesn't happen often.
No, it doesn't.
He said it doesn't happen.
It doesn't.
He says,
I agree with him.
You got them.
Listen, here are the things that I've got to put my glasses on because I can't read. Here are the things that I wanted to ask you about, and one is Mission Impossible and Tom Cruise. We did talk about Full Metal Jacket and Aliens.
Dirty
We
Dozen.
just talked.
Lee
Oh,
Marvin.
something. I wanted to ask you about Elon Musk, and I think this is you got some things there. Is Tuska Musk? Is that his company? What's Tuska Musk?
Tuska Musk is his sister's company.
Okay.
And she is a producer. And she called me in for a 3-picture deal. And we made one movie. It's based on these books, these romantic books that are bestsellers by Brenda Jackson. And people love them. There's a huge following. So Tuska, Elon's sister, decided she wanted to buy these three books. And she bought these 3 books. And she's making films on them. So we made one of the films. It's called A Brother's Honor, and we made that about 4 years ago before the pandemic. And then just as the pandemic was happening, we were going to shoot the second and third together. And just as we were lining up to shoot it, the pandemic happened and everything stopped. So she called me in while I'm shooting Beauty in Black in Atlanta and says, we need you in Miami so that we can shoot these scenes. I said, well, I'm shooting Beauty in Black and I can't go. And Tyler, I told Tyler about it. He says, I'll give you a couple days off and the weekend. So I had a few days and I said, well, these are the days that Tyler will let me go shoot this. And she hooked up the schedule, but she says, Ricco, we're going to shoot all of your scenes on these days. Are you going to be able to handle it? And I'm going, baby, you don't know what I've been through boot camp. This is nothing.
Only 30 pages?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, right? So I fly down to Miami,
In
man.
my sleep, I can do it. Yeah.
And I kill it. We finish ahead of schedule and everything because I've been working in boot camp with Tyler, right? And so we shoot 2 and 3, and they're dropping the second movie on the 10th of October, and it's called A Man's Promise. And I play a similar kind of character. This character, it's an aeronautics company, and he's the owner of it. He's very wealthy. He's very successful, but he's in prison. And one of his competitors has found a way to get him in prison, and his sons knows that he's been set up, and they're trying to get him out. And the difference between this character is his sons. He loves his sons because his sons are really, really smart, really, really good businessmen, and they're not like the sons that Beauty in Black that I have. Yeah. And so it was a lot easier for me to step into this character because I have such love for my boys, and these guys are really good men. And each film of these is one of the boys' stories. I have 3 sons, and each film is one of the boys' stories. And the way I got on the film was that one of the fans did a mock-up poster of the first movie, and they put my picture on the cover as the father. And I'm getting people sending me going, oh, you're doing this? And I don't know anything about this. So I got in contact, my people got in contact with them and said, listen, we love that you're using Ricco's face, but if you're going to use him, you got to pay him. And they said, well, and then Brenda contacted me, the author, and she said, no, I didn't do that. One of the fans did that, they have asked me to contact you because they want you to play this role, and that's how I got the role.
Wow!
And she says it was so successful that now she has written a 4th book that's my storyline.
Really?
So
Wow.
Busy guy. We're not going to be able to get to it because we're like way over time now. But you'll have to come back tomorrow. we'll do a 2-parter. What do they call it, Jim? When you have a 4-hour movie and they have something in between. What do they call that?
Intermission.
The intermission.
Intermission.
We're going to have an intermission here. So because I've got filming with Ken Watanabe, which I think I did too. Filming in South Africa, which I shot in South Africa.
Yeah. I got some
that's
stories.
Great
too.
white. So do I. Great white sharks. The whole safari thing.
Well, dude, we'll come back. We'll come back.
I got a bunch of stuff in here. We didn't even talk about the Dirty Dozen. We didn't talk about Budapest.
No.
We did, like all sorts of stuff. We didn't even get to. Lee Marvin. And like that's so.
We'll come back one day.
Well, you're so busy. And you're so busy, wonderful. I'm really happy for you, and
thank you,
I'm glad to know now that if Tyler Perry offers me something, that I'm going to have to turn it down because 3 pages a day is about all It's about all I got in me. But thank you so much for coming.
Oh, my pleasure.
For your
man.
busy schedule, and we'll have to do this again soon after the shows come out, and we can talk about them and whether people loved them or
There you
hated
go.
them and why so thanks.
Get some reactions for
Yeah.
There
sure.
you go. All right,
Thank you.
Tim. Hey, nice talking to you too, man.
Great talking to you.
All right, Michael.
All right.